Mike, hello. Welcome back to Travel Again Presents the weekly travel roundup, Headwinds and Tailwinds impacting the business of travel. A weekly look at what matters most to our amazing industry. Mike, it's nice to see you this week.
Good to see you as always, Ed.
Welcome back to all of our viewers around the world. We have a bunch of stories. It's a little slow this summer. Travel's busy, but news can be slow. But I found some great articles for us to talk about. Why don't we jump right into it?
Bring them on.
All right. The first one is Uber logs first quarterly profit as bookings rise. That's the first quarterly profit since it was founded, Mike, in 2009. What does this mean for Uber and the industry?
Well, first off, I'd say it's a huge milestone. I'm sure they're popping some corks at the headquarters, at Uber and hats off to Dara and the team. It's a long road to get there, certainly probably longer than they'd hoped or expected in some ways, just overall as a company. But in terms of reaching that, really all important pivot point, all the money that's been invested, spent, the reliance that everybody has on, certainly Uber and Lyft at this point, for transportation, but now to turn that into profit and start to really normalize and then put the business in a position to grow and to continue to mature. That's, it's been talked about. I mean, the Amazon story, other brands, that huge point of when you hit that pivot point and turn into profitability, that's a big deal. And it speaks well for the industry and speaks well for the stability of Uber now, growing and longer term, because those numbers should continue to grow and certainly ride the wave of, things coming back, economy, et cetera. Right. So good story, good travel story for sure.
Good to see, and congrats to Darren and the whole team. Next story is about summer travel and the latest on major U.S. airline staffing contract situations. To make matters more complicated this summer, there are some concerns about staffing contracts going into the final part of the summer. What can you tell us about this? This is a story in Travel Pulse.
Well, so I think overall the picture is good in that, there's always between pilots, flight attendants, crew, et cetera, throughout the airlines, there's always contracts that are in flux, various stages of term, negotiating, renegotiating. There's a very complex process about all of this. I'd say overall the good news is that the airlines are hitting record profits and are doing really well. So this is a time when as contracts come up for negotiation, certainly that puts the and because of their staffing shortages, puts the unions in a good position to get better contracts. And we're seeing those happen, and they happen kind of as a domino effect. I mean, once you have like United reached a big agreement with their pilots, that becomes the new benchmark for the others, right? As their contracts, come and get renewed. A lot of times, though, the thing is, as a lot of this is cyclical at times, and you have airline profitability and performance kind of going up and down, it doesn't always match up with the contract cycles, right? Because there's a lag time. And so sometimes it can be a little off. But mostly this is good. I mean, it's certainly good for the airlines, good for the stability of the airlines to have, that level of profitability, and certainly good, or should be good, for the employees, right? That they, whatever had to happen during COVID, now, they should have an opportunity to kind of get that more in line with, current wage, right? And one that's going to be good. And again, say it again many times, but you've got pilots, flight attendants on the front lines. We see these stories like literally every day, every week, about disruptions, passengers, really, difficult conditions on those front lines, as passengers misbehave and to say the least, right?
Yep.
And so it's good to see. I mean, look, they should be compensated for their roles well. They should, if the airlines are doing well, their employees should do well. So I think, the overall picture looks pretty good, though. If you look through, there's not, some of those signings like the United one, et cetera, again, become the bellwether, but it also reflects that, those deals will likely get done, throughout the industry.
Okay. I think that sounds like good news for the rest of the summer. We shall see. Mike, I picked up two more stories that we see a theme going around competition for non-travel companies connecting with travel companies. The first one is Expedia Group Inc.'s Walmart as a major new B2B customer. And the second one is Hopper hooks Nubank for travel portal partnership. We're starting to see a theme of these larger travel providers connecting with non-travel assets. So start with maybe the Expedia Group and Walmart and tell us about that one, and then we'll move on to Hopper.
Well, so there's a lot in this, right? Because, you and I have been involved in many of these deals over the years on both sides of the table, right? Both in terms of working as a travel provider and going out and negotiating these kind of B2B deals to extend and acquire new customers, sometimes done as kind of, a white label, meaning taking the, like in the case of a Walmart, is it Walmart Travel or whatever, that is the brand, but it's actually powered by turnkey by, one of the OTAs or a travel partner, right? So these deals have been being done since the advent of online travel, and then and even before, right? So there's nothing new in terms of the partnerships themselves, but it is interesting because seemingly there's a bunch of new, kind of new relationships or renewed relationships or conversion relationships converting, right? As these travel partners are looking to find more and more customers and reach them for the brands themselves. I mean, it's a turnkey way to make more money off of their customers that they already have, and a way to add more value to the relationship, their brand relationship with their customers. So in theory, it all works well. I mean, historically, some of the challenges have been the conversions can be really low. Travel's so unique. Like when I go to a Costco or go to a Walmart, just brand examples, or even in these cases, like some of the financial players, right? That doesn't always translate into I'm going to buy my travel there. And a lot of times you can see sometimes it works. Customers are really loyal to the brand, really if they get kind of an offer from their, this brand, and some of them even like the AARPs, the AAAs, et cetera, like even those types of, brand relationships, right? You may say, yeah, I'll buy my travel through that. I have a confidence because I know the brand will back it up. Even if someone else is actually providing the travel, actually fulfilling the travel, it's still, I feel like I can go back to a brand I trust if I have an issue or problem, or I'm getting good value, et cetera. So it can work, but there are challenges. And again, a lot of times the conversion can be pretty low, but again, for the travel partner, it's also a way to reach customers without putting, hard-end marketing dollars out to go reach them organically. So again, relationship can work really well. Sometimes it works great for both parties. Sometimes it can be lopsided. Sometimes it just, again, doesn't always translate into bookings, into activity. But again, more of these seem to be coming up now. I think you pulled the articles because you're starting to see some connections here. And I think the other thing we're seeing too, like in the case of, again, like a Nubank, you've got a fintech, Brazil fintech giant, jumping into, a relationship with a Hopper. So, that's a really unique new, relationship, right? And, again, Hopper, partnership with Australia, like, these are all ways they're trying to reach out and capture customers, again, without having to put out marketing dollars in places where they probably would have little or no success. So on their own. So again, a lot of activity here, but and interesting. And we'll probably see, I would guess, especially with the big players, a big push on this, in the coming, weeks, months, years, right, as a way to continue to try to capture more of this growing travel demand.
As you know, I love to see action in the space. It keeps us busy, but also just indicates where things are going. And speaking of action, buy now, pay later travel solution Uplift was acquired for $100 million this past week from a financial industry provider called Upgrade. What does this one mean to the industry, or is it just more action in the space? Tell us about this one.
Well, I think, as we've seen, right? So let's kind of step back for a minute. You see financial players in all forms, but particularly like look at, Chase, look at, Capital One, et cetera, really betting big, and Amex certainly always, right? Betting big on travel, right? That, huge effort. We saw the like for the Chase, activity, they're going to be reach 10 billion in sales, or this year, in travel. You're talking big money game, and a real interest in kind of connecting their financial services kind of offering with a travel offering, the way that frankly American Express has been doing for a long time, very, very, very successfully, right? So it's really interesting to see that even a player like this is like getting into the travel space, right? So it's more of this marrying of financial services in all different forms, right, and travel, and it does go together. And I guess maybe the underlying part of this is that the tech is really gotten to a point where this is all really more, not easily done, but more efficiently done, right? And it can be put together more efficiently without having to build out a big physical infrastructure like you would have had to in years past, like an American Express did very successfully, right? But now that moat is, let's say, drying up, right? So it means, easier to get into the game, more competition, good for customers, right? Overall, certainly. But still, travel is, as we know, it's not for the, it's not an easy lift. It takes a real commitment. Customers can really sour quickly if you don't really invest in service levels and really, quality product and quality tech, et cetera, right? It's a far more complex game than a lot of outside companies get, and just generally we've seen that over the years, right? People really underestimate the complexities of travel and the infrastructure that's required. But if you get it right, it certainly can result in good earnings and good growth. So
all right, Mike, that's it for this edition of Travel Again Presents. Thanks everybody for tuning in, and we will see you next week. Have a good night, Mike.
Yep. See ya.